Hello, it's Julie, Mom on Simply Notable, and I'm here to knit along with you on the Almost Lost Washcloth. Just going to do a little video tutorial, and I've started with my 14 stitches cast on, and I've left a nice long tail so that I can finish with that when I'm done. I can seam it together. So I'm going to start with the very beginning instructions, kind of the setup for the washcloth. It says to cast on 14 stitches and knit back. So my 14 stitches are just cast on, and now I'll go ahead and knit back. Kind of used this yarn a couple of times as I've tried to do this video, so I'm splitting it a little bit. You may notice that I knit oddly through the back loops, and it's a kind of a combination knitting method that my German grandmother taught me when I was 11 years old. I knit through the back loops, which twists the stitches, but then when I purl back, I purl in an odd way too, which untwists them. So it makes nice stockinette stitch, nice normal stockinette stitch. But in garter stitch, I think my knitting tends to be, or my stitches tend to be twisted, making it a little tighter. But I'm okay with it. It's what I'm used to. So we've got our setup. We've cast on 14 stitches and knit back. Now I'm going to start instruction number 1. Number 1 is knit 4, yarn over, and knit, leaving 2 stitches. So all this really means is that I'm going to knit up to the last 2 stitches on the left-hand needle. And I'm going to leave them there, not unknit, completely unknit, and I'm just going to turn and knit back. When they say to knit back in this kind of old-fashioned knitting recipe, they just mean turn your work and knit to the end of the row. So whenever we knit back, we knit all the way to the end. And it kind of sets us up for the next short row we're going to do. And short rows is actually the knitting term that you use when you just knit partial rows like this, and it makes shaping. In this case, it starts making these pie-shaped segments. So that's the end of number 1. Instruction number 2 is knit 4, yarn over, knit, leaving 4 stitches. So we're basically going to knit to these last 4 stitches on the left-hand needle. There we go. And knit back. So I just turn it and knit to the end of the row. Each time you do this, you're knitting wider on one end because it's getting more rows knit. And the other end with those leftover stitches are kind of just staying the same. As you can see, it's just getting more and more wide on one end, staying the same on the other. Okay, so instruction number 3. Knit 4, yarn over. And isn't it nice how it just starts with the same thing every single time? So this is a pattern that after you've kind of done it a while, you begin to memorize it. And then it says knit, leaving 6 stitches. So we're going to knit to those last 6 stitches on the left-hand needle. What am I doing? Yep, there's the 6 stitches, and knit back. So just turn, leaving those stitches unknit, and knit to the end. Split that stitch, didn't I? I really like using my old-fashioned straight needles every now and again. These belong to my grandmother. All right, we've got, get more and more of a pie there. And we have one more instruction left, number 4. So knit 4, yarn over, knit to the last 8 stitches. Gets easier every time, or quicker I should say. Okay, so there's my 8 stitches left. I'll turn and knit back. It's 2 there. All the way to the end. Then, to finish off this segment, it tells me to cast off 4 and knit to the end. And I have to tell you, when you cast off, be careful that you're not counting as you knit. Only count as you drop the stitch off the needle. So there's 1. 2, 3, and 4. And now it tells me knit to end. It's kind of awkward knitting in this position. I want the camera to be so that it's looking at the knitting just like you would be looking at the knitting. But that means I have to stretch my arms around it. All right. And then the final instruction to finish your segment is knit back. So there we are. Segment number 1 on the Almost Lost Washcloth. You'll do this over 14 times, or 13 more times, I guess, 14 total. And you'll find that the confusing thing, I think, that confused a lot of people is the beginning setup where it says to cast on 14 stitches and knit back. You don't want to repeat that. That's only your setup. So at this point, you would start again with instruction number 1. You would turn, knit 4, yarn over, knit to the last 2 stitches. So that's the Almost Lost Washcloth. Fun! Thanks for knitting with me.